The headline reads, Disneyland Resort will not allow renewal of Dream and Believe Key passes. This seemingly from out of nowhere. But was it? Is it true? We're going to talk about that next on Fresh Baked. Hi guys, David here with Fresh Baked, and I'm sure you're probably all wondering, David, did you hear the news, the rumor, that Disney's not going to allow Believe Keys and Dream Keys to renew their annual passes? I did, and I've got some thoughts that hopefully might try to clear things up just a bit, but I will say up front that there's a very reasonable chance that this story is actually true. But it's not as bad as it sounds. First, let's talk about how this story broke, or at least how it broke for me, how I became aware of things. Wednesday afternoon, Twitter user Jeff Gordon LA posted a screenshot of an exchange between a Magic Key holder and a Disneyland customer service rep. The guest was trying to renew their Believe Key pass, and the CM advised the guest that Dream and Believe Keys were sold out and that currently are not available for renewal. WDW News Today picked up the tweet and ran an article with that headline that we just talked about, and of course, this sent Twitter a buzz. Let's talk first about a very specific scenario that is being played out in this example. The first question that I had was how, or even why, is a guest trying to renew a pass in May when passes weren't available for sale until August of last year? Well, it turns out this guest bought a 3-day ticket in May and chose to upgrade one of those days to an annual pass, which is something that's commonly done. And in those cases, per Disney policy, that annual pass, that Magic Key, will be backdated to the time of purchase, in this case, May. So that's why you've got an annual pass expiring on May 1st rather than August 20-something or whenever they became available for purchase. My next thought was, well, this is probably still no big deal. This very likely could be a boilerplate response to a very common, typical Magic Key renewal question. And it doesn't have to necessarily be taken literally or mean anything specific. And by that, I mean, if I went to a cast member or a customer service rep and said, I want to renew my pass, they would tell me, no, they are not available for renewal. But they would also probably add the word yet. Policy in the before times was that Magic Keys could be renewed anytime between 60 days before they expire or 30 days after they expire. But in this case, the CM didn't say yet. They just said that they were not currently available for renewal. Now, the word currently is also up for interpretation, has a little bit of flexibility to it. So, I mean, it's still possible that that's what their true meaning was. We're just talking about semantics at this point. But it is something that I noticed, something that caught my eye, worth thinking about. Now, as for WDW News Today, as far as I can tell, they were not basing their story on any other sources, nothing other than this tweet. But there was a certain positivity to the way that this headline was written that had me take pause. Personally, when I am not 100% sure about a story and how true it is, I will hedge a little bit in the way that I write my headline or my title. I will not say something as final and definitive as how this headline was written. Disneyland Resort will not allow renewal of Dream and Believe Key passes. No hedging there. Now, at this point, I guess I should remind you that this video, this conversation that we're having right now, for my part, is pure conjecture. Just trying to connect some dots, trying to shed a little light on the topic for those of you who are interested in the story that is Magic Key passes and if you can renew them or not. That said, I did get a sense of confidence from this headline, such that I believe that perhaps they might have had a source that could at least confirm that this is something that Disney has been talking about or thinking of doing. But perhaps even more interesting is the timeline of the conversation between the cast member and the guest. That is to say, it started 20 days ago. 20 days it took between the beginning of the request and the actual response from the cast member. Now, did it really take just 20 days for that cast member to respond with no conversation in between? Did it take that long because the CM was trying to get some guidance from management about how to respond to this question, this person who wants to renew their annual passes? It's a great question, actually. It's something that I would like to know myself if I had a pass coming up for expiration in a couple of weeks, because they're not selling annual passes right now. If they're not selling them, okay, are they renewing them? I don't know. That's a great question. This is a great question. The answer perhaps is not that easy. Did it take that long because they weren't sure of what their answer was going to be? Is this situation such an outlier that they were not ready to answer this question? And Now that they did answer it, does this tell us the truth about what Disney is thinking? What are their plans? Did it take that long to answer the question because they weren't sure if they were going to allow Dream and Believe keys to renew? Sounds like maybe not. It sounds kind of bad, actually, but it's not as bad as it sounds. As I mentioned before, there is room for optimism. First, ask the question, why would they not be sure if they're going to allow renewals? The only possible answer to that question is because they're not going to sell those passes anymore. If they knew that they were going to sell Believe keys and Dream keys, they would also allow people to renew them at any point. But is that really likely? Are they really just going to stop selling Dream and Believe keys? No, I don't think so. Not at all. I have said in the past, and I maintain today, that Disney definitely wants to be in the Magic Key business, even back when there was no keys at all, no annual passes, no anything, and people were doom and gloom, the sky is falling. I said, no, hang in there. We're going to get annual passes, and I still believe that is the case today. But if it's true that they're not going to allow Believe keys and Dream keys to renew, and we understand the idea that the only reason why they would do that is because they're not going to be selling those keys in the future, but we also believe that they want to be in the Magic Key business, especially in the Dream and Believe key business, then where does that leave us? Just Enchant and Imagine keys? No, of course not. There's no way that they would sell just Enchant and Imagine keys. Logically, the only other thing that makes sense is that they're trying to come up with a new Magic Key. You may have noticed that they sent out waves, multiple instances of that survey to Magic Key holders, quizzing us on all kinds of things about the benefits of the program, of the Magic Key program, of the reservation system, the ease of use, all kinds of things related to Magic Keys. They were trying to pick our brain to how we feel about that program. And generally speaking, when they do something like that, it's because they want to know how to make it better, or they want to know how they can make it better for us to sell more of them. They are trying to craft, I believe, a new Magic Key. And I think they have to, because I think it's the only way to get around the Magic Key lawsuit. You guys remember that, right? They stopped selling the Believe and Dream keys, in my opinion, because of the lawsuit, because there was too much exposure to further trouble. Refreshing your memory, that lawsuit alleged that Disney had intentionally obfuscated how the reservation system works. The Dream Key, for example, has no blockout dates. Own a Dream Key and you can go to the park every single day of the year, if you can get a reservation. We all understood this. Reservations were subject to availability. The fine print was there for everybody to read. But subject to what? What is the criteria for availability? Logic dictates that it is park capacity. Have we reached capacity? Is the park sold out completely? Except that there were days where a Dream Key or Believe Key could not make a reservation. They were blocked out, but a single day ticket holder could. So is that date sold out or not? Hence the lawsuit. And it's over what is a blockout date, what constitutes availability, and what is a blockout date. And that concludes our little quick primer on the Magic Key lawsuit. But I mentioned this to say, what if the pass that they're crafting is one to get around that particular problem? Two possibilities. One, they sell a pass that has no reservations at all. Go anytime you want. Basically, the Sig Plus pass. This would very clearly get around any issues that could lead to a lawsuit in terms of park capacity and availability and what is or what isn't a blockout date. Or they could create new passes that work exactly like the Believe and Dream Keys did, except it includes whatever language they need to say legally in order to prevent any further legal exposure. Things like, I don't know, the Magic Key reservation calendar is subject to change for reasons that are completely unrelated to park capacity. Honest language like that might sound shocking, actually. And they'll do it too. You need only look at the recent language that they've been adding to Genie Plus, both at Walt Disney World and here at Disneyland. At Walt Disney World, they had to add a disclaimer advising guests that you're probably only going to get maybe 2 or 3 rides out of Genie Plus. Just a heads up. But the fact that they had to do that is shocking. It's shocking. The fact that they're saying that, they're being honest up front. You might get 2 or 3 rides. Unbelievable. Meanwhile, at Disneyland, there's a similar disclaimer when buying Genie Plus that asks guests to check the tip board real quick to make sure the ride you want is available for Lightning Lane. In the latter case, my assumption is that they were getting a lot of complaints and requests for refunds because people were buying Genie Plus, trying to make a reservation, and they realized that the ride that they wanted, maybe it was sold out already, or it was for a time much further into hours into the future, perhaps, when they couldn't make it. And they come back and they say, hey, I didn't get the ride I wanted. I want a refund. The point here is that Disney seems to be leaning towards putting in language, honest language, transparent language, in order to avoid potential situations like lawsuits and or just people asking for refunds. And that's why I think that there may be some truth to the rumor that Disney's not going to allow guests to renew their Dream or Believe Key passes, but not because they're going to stop selling them. Well, actually, they are, perhaps, but they're going to sell a different pass. Maybe a pass that's better than the Dream or Believe Key. That's the part that I'm trying to get clear here, is that this is not necessarily bad news. It's possibly even good news. It's possible we get that key that we want, the key that doesn't require reservations, or at the very minimum, it's a key that makes it clear to us what the rules are, what the actual game that we're playing here is. So stay tuned to Fresh Bake, because you can bet we're going to follow this story very closely. Of all the things that I am passionate about as it relates to Disneyland, my annual pass, my Magic Key, is at the very top of that list of things that I am super passionate about. So I'm going to be watching this one very, very closely. Until then, follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. And if you like our show and want to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/FreshBaked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you very much. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Fresh Baked